Go further with the American Express Business Gold Card. Earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels when you book through AmexTravel.com. Whether your destination is a business conference or a client meeting, your purchases will help you earn more points for future trips. Experience more on your travels with Amex Business Gold. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. All with great warranties and safety features. Great pre-owned inventory with the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee because they go over every vehicle with a fine-tooth comb. And a terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way, whether it happens to be quick lane, inspections, routine, difficult, all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. But it's great when you have the ability to be the hot team down the stretch, and it does pay off in you getting into the tournament. And that's what happened with Penn State men's ice hockey. They will get Maine in the opening round at Allentown. The absolutely outstanding play-by-play voice of Penn State men's ice hockey is Brian Tripp. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Steve, really appreciate it, and thanks for the kind words.
Okay. So let's... By the way, despite what he said the last time, he actually said nice things in the article. I was like, I don't, I was confused, right? I almost called you to ask who you were talking about. All right, so, look, this team has fought its way to get here. When you've got, there's certain guys that, the Aiden Finks of the world and so forth, but when the Ben Schoen step up and do things like that, how important has the balance and the wide variety of people stepping up and made a difference in what Guy Godowski has?
Yeah, because I don't think they get through that Big Ten tournament without that. Obviously, the first game they had outstanding contributions from what has been really their top line down the stretch, and J.J. Weebush, Charlie Serrato, and Matt DeMarsico, plus what Aiden Fink did in that game, especially on the power play with 4 assists. But then in the second game, and I don't know that Arseny Sergeyev, who's as big of a reason that they're in this spot as anyone for his play in the second half since returning from injury, I don't know that Arseny was at his best in the Big Ten tournament. They had to go on the road to Yost and sweep, and in that second game, it was guys that Guy has talked about all year long for their leadership, their character, the identity they play with. Nick DeGraves, Dylan Lugris, Keaton Peters, Ben Schoen, who you mentioned, who's been on this just unbelievable journey, and it came full circle with him going back to Michigan 2 years to nearly the day from when he had a gruesome injury there. He got hurt again there and came back and had a great tournament with multiple points in both of his games there, and then continued that actually at Ohio State. But I think they were able to do it, Steve, because of the contributions up and down the lineup. And when you're getting that, obviously – Fink and those guys I just mentioned have been really good all year long, but to see some of those players get rewarded and step up in a big way in the tournament, it showed the versatility this group has and how they can win games different way. They can win a 6-5 shootout. They can win a real tight, low-scoring game if Arseny has to win a game for them, and I think that's what makes them really dangerous as you go into a postseason. And I'll tell you what, it'll be nice for them to play a team from outside of the Big Ten, because I think their style of play, their speed, it's really hard to judge on film until you get out there and play them for the first time. I think they have a big advantage going into a tournament against a fresh opponent that they'll see on Friday night.
See, that's what I say all the time about the basketball tournament, getting out of conference. There are spots open on the floor that haven't been open all year. Same thing with the hockey tournament. I think there are spots on the ice that are going to be open that haven't been open for 2.5 months.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in the Big Ten, especially when you're playing teams like Minnesota, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan State, time and space is just so difficult to come by. I think those Michigan games are a bit of an anomaly because the style of play that they have, they'll just get up and down the ice and just try to go with you. But I think those teams in the Big Ten, they know what Penn State wants to do, and to Penn State's credit, I think they're really good at what they do, so they can get to their game more frequently than not, and that's why they've had so much success. But when I think there's such belief that Guy has, his coaching staff has, and that the players have in the way they play, to play someone different is just going to be that much more refreshing for this hockey team.
All right. So now let's get to this part. It's going to be 2 weeks in between. Everybody's beat up at this time of the year. What is your thought on how beneficial it actually is for this team that they had a little time off from the grind of playing to then settle in, practice, and have a different schedule the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think in this case it's probably a good thing because they didn't have any buys in the second half of the year. Typically there's a buy in the second half of the year at some point once the calendar turns, but they had both their Big Ten buys in the first half of the schedule, and then the one weekend they could have had off in the second half, they had a non-conference series. So I think the way it works out, Steve, as hot as they were, and sometimes, right, it's better. We see it in every sport. We see it in football. You see it in basketball all the time. When you have a team that's going, or they're in a routine or a rhythm, it's better to just keep going. But I think for this group, it had been such a long stretch, basically playing playoff hockey since the start of January. I think they were able to take a breather. Look, you have to find a way to still compete in practice. I'm excited. They had yesterday off. They just watched the selection show. I'm excited to get there in a short bit here today and see what they look like in practice today. I think ultimately it's a good thing because Maine is a physical, heavy hockey team, and you need fresh legs against a team like that. And they're coming off a very deep run, winning the Hockey East tournament, in which they had to play a grueling double overtime game in Game 1. They took a big lead in Game 2, but got all they could handle, despite the final score being pretty comfortable at 5-2, got all they could handle from UConn then in the second game of that tournament.
Well, again, they're going to try and lay it on Penn State. The question I have is whether Maine can catch Penn State.
Yeah, that's the question I have as well. I think it's getting their defensemen turned around and trying to use your speed in transition. Look, it's a big physical Maine team. I watched the entire Northeastern game on Thursday night when they won in double overtime. They dominated the game, even though it took until double overtime to score. They're just dumping pucks in, winning every puck battle, retrieving pucks. They're a good face-off team. They've got some strong physical forwards. But I think Penn State probably, and this isn't to take away from some of their top guys, Josh Nadeau, Taylor McCarr, who is Cale McCarr's brother, Nolan Rett. Like, they've got some guys, certainly. You're not one of the top 5 teams in the country all year long without having some skill. But I think Penn State feels good about its skill comparison to them and speed comparison to them. It's how are you going to handle that physicality and not letting them just get to their game and trying to get them uncomfortable.
And yes, Taylor McCarr did start his career at UMass, where his brother, of course, went, and then he transferred to Maine and is a highly skilled player. He's outstanding, as a matter of fact. Sergeyev, how important was it for him to have the break when you're out there manning that spot game in and game out?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good thing for him at this point. Again, to your point, he's just played every minute, every weekend. They've needed him to be exceptional down the stretch. And to play in the series especially, I thought, at Michigan State, at home against Minnesota, then to go on the road to Michigan. Those are 3 weekends in particular that are just, you're under siege against those teams, against some high firepower, big-time offensive threats. And I think it's nice for Arseni to catch a breather, head into this tournament fresh and regrouped and ready to go. And it'll be a great goaltending matchup. Boyja, the goaltender for Maine, has been outstanding, and I mean outstanding all year long. He's got great numbers. He doesn't have the size that Arsenio has. Watching him, they list him at 6'1", Steve. When I watched the other night, I thought this guy's not 6'1", but he had to make some really big saves in that game. I think they played outstanding defense in front of him and really have kept the puck at the other end of the ice. But he is pretty good behind them as well, and is a really nice last line of defense. He's had as good of a season as any goalie in the country statistically this year. And
he'll stand in his head to make saves. I mean, he's really, terrific in that regard. In talking with Guy Godowski on the Coach's Show Thursday night, I sensed that he just genuinely really likes this team. He really likes his players. He likes his team.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I've got that sense over the last couple of months because how much fun they have in doing it. I know when you talked to him the other night, he was talking about the competitive edge that they have, that they compete in everything on and off the ice. And, they're not afraid to hold each other accountable. Some of it's probably good-natured chirping and fun and ribbing with the guys. And the other part of it is they really just don't like to lose, and they want to come to the rink and really enjoy the time that they're there. And I think he really enjoys that about this group. I think this group has a lot of personality, a lot of character. So when you look at this roster, like Maine played in a tournament game last year. Now, they didn't have success in the postseason last year, but they were there. For a lot of this group, it's going to be the first time in college hockey getting to this stage, even though Penn State was there 2 years ago. A lot of the key guys are fresh faces here. But I think it's not going to be too big for them. Nothing will daunt this group because of that edge, that tenacity. They really are an unflappable team, and I think the way they've rallied together, the way the seniors and juniors have led the team, and then to see the sophomores and freshmen step up, I think it just has so many pieces of the puzzle that he enjoys being around every day. They're funny. Look, the goaltender, Arsenio Sergeyev, is just like a hilarious guy. He's funny, but he's so good, too, on the ice. I think guys just enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, and this is a great deal for them. They get to go to Allentown for this. You've done these tournament games in Allentown. What's the response been like when it's been there? And I thought it was interesting they made Penn State Maine the second game. I mean, normally it's the other way around, but what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think being a night game, especially on a Friday night, 8:30, when we were there last time, Michigan and Colgate was the second game. Penn State, Michigan Tech was the first game. It's still an outstanding crowd on a Friday. The environment's been really good, and from what I understand this time, the event's pretty much sold out to this point. So if anyone wants to go, you have to get tickets on the secondary market. And I'm sure there will be. Maine's got a loyal following, and it's been a while since Maine hockey was relevant, and UConn's in this regional. It's their first time ever in an NCAA tournament, and Quinnipiac won the national title 2 years ago, and both those teams, as you know, they're just coming in from Connecticut, so it's not all that far to Eastern PA. So I'm sure there'll be fans from other teams there. But Penn State fans, I think, are really excited about the team. There's been a lot of noise about the team the last couple of weeks because of their play, the highlight reel plays. Guy, as much as guys enjoyed being around them, I think they're an easy group to root for. Last time we were there in 2023, when Penn State took Michigan to overtime with a chance to go to the Frozen Four, it was as great a hockey environment as I've been in the postseason. Look, there's the discussion of moving these regionals to home ice sites of the top seed in the region. That may be where it's trending, but when Penn State's been in Allentown, attendance has not been a problem, and a credit to Penn State fans because it is a real difference when you can play on home ice, and we've seen it throughout the history of this tournament. Teams, regardless of seed, have had success going against some of the better teams when they've had the opportunity to play on home ice. And, there's this whole conversation of who do you want to play, who don't you want to play, and, you may say, well, Maine's a tough matchup, BC, whoever it is. Right now, all the other teams, this is the mindset I think everyone else has. Everyone's saying, we don't want to play Penn State. They're the best team in college hockey since the calendar turned to 2025.
Why do I sense Moeller wanted tickets? I'm just a sense. Just a sense. I have contacts.
We'll have to get a sideline producer credential for him.
Oh, I want to ask about Aiden Fink because I haven't talked about him. Hobie Baker nominee. Was it 8-9 schools ever? Heisman Trophy, Hobie Baker, which is a phenomenal stat. You've had the privilege of watching him every day. What has made him, in your opinion, a Hobie Baker nominee?
I think he's been really good in big moments. He's found a way. He's got a real knack to be on the puck whenever Penn State needs it. He's a guy who can drive a line when he's out there. There are very few players in the country, and Penn State's had some great players. Like, you kind of know when they're on the ice. But every time Aiden Fink is on the ice, it seems like he's always around the puck, and he just catches your eye. So I think his production's been great. We've talked about it. His work ethic, what he meant to the team, what he means to the team has been really good. It's interesting because over the last couple of weeks, he hasn't found the back of the net here in the Big Ten tournament. He didn't the last weekend of the regular season, and that's really uncharacteristic for Aiden. I still think he's impacting the game with all the assists he's racked up, his playmaking ability, and I don't think it's really bothered him how he plays. And you can only hold a guy like that off the score sheet for so long, so I feel like he's due going into this tournament too. So I think that bodes well for them, but he is just he's fun to be around, the improvement he made from year one to year two, and then to do it, and this is no knock on Reese Lawback and Danny Jania, because they're tremendous players. But typically when a guy is up for the Hobie, his line mates have very comparable numbers. Aiden has almost 20 points more than his other line mates, and that speaks to how dominant he's been wherever he is and whenever he's on the ice.
Something I always watch for with great players, what are they like when they don't have the ball, or in his case, what are they like when they don't have the puck? When he doesn't have the puck, you can see he's probing and trying to find the right spot to be. That's what I see in him without the puck, which has made him great with the puck.
Yeah, and a guy his size, Steve, sometimes you wonder if he'll be shy of contact or just try to play on the offensive end. And when you talk about what he does without the puck, it's at 200 feet of the ice. He's going to do everything he can to sell out and help his team and prevent the puck from going in his own net. And I think that's the part of the game, and I know we've talked about it before, you knew you were getting a great scorer with him. And since he stepped on campus as a freshman, he's shown a commitment to that defensive end, and then his defensive play has gotten better and better and better with it. Guy will tell you, he's a very low-risk, high-reward player, and those are hard to come by. He does not put himself in precarious positions by taking chances to score. He scores because the opportunity's there, and he's that good to put it in the net.
Well, I'm going to let you go to practice, all right, and get that done there. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I can't wait for it.
Can't wait, Steve. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you hopefully about a Frozen Four coming up.
That sounds great. I would look forward to that very much because that would be great news. Thanks, Brian.
It would be.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve.
Brian Tripp, voice of Penn State men's ice hockey. Wrap it up in a moment. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.